So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Megan Walsh. I'm the Acting Executive Director at CHC, as many of you know. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that the National Capital Region is located on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. The Algonquin people have inhabited and cared for these lands since time immemorial. We take this time to show our gratitude and regard to them and the land for all it provides us. So welcome everyone to the Forum on the Future of Heritage. So this culminating event of the Capital Heritage Mentorship Program is always such an eye-opening experience for everyone to see all the work that has been done by the mentees over the last 5 months, both for those who participated in internships and those who were working on their own professional development, working with their mentors to learn from their experience and as well to share their own. Now, most of you who are here probably know about Capital Heritage Connection. But for those of you who are joining us on our live stream on YouTube, I'll just go over a bit about what CHC does. So Capital Heritage Connection is a nonprofit umbrella organization here in Ottawa, and we provide professional development support to our membership. So our membership varies from organizations like Beechwood Cemetery to individuals like our mentees, or other members of the public looking to support Heritage in Ottawa. We provide support through professional development opportunities like the mentorship program, but also workshops like those we've co-hosted in the past with the Canadian Conservation Institute, for example. We also advocate for our members as well as the public at large through the work that we do with the Ottawa Cultural Alliance, as well as our established relationships with various levels of government, very often with the City of Ottawa. So although CHC does all of this and more, we are here tonight to talk about the Capital Heritage Mentorship Program. CHMP is close to my heart because it's the first project that I took on when I started at CHC a couple of years ago. But now I'm actually going to be passing it over to our acting program manager, Vaibhavi Dot, who's going to tell you more about the program. And Vaibhavi is joining us on Zoom because she is in India having much warmer weather than we are.
Thank you, Megan. I am Vaibhavi, Acting Program Manager at CHC. As many people in this room already know, I started my career in Heritage as a mentee with this program. So I'm very honored to be a part of it this year. The Capital Heritage Mentorship Program has been funded for the past 3 years by Ottawa Community Foundation. It supports youth, new graduates, and new professionals in the National Capital Region, and it connects these 8 emerging professionals with 4 experienced mentors who guide them through their professional journey. 2 of these mentees also participate in internships with their mentors and host institutions. The focus for mentees is on networking and building professional connections, career development and setting personal career goals, and honing their leadership skills. And the mentors benefit from building on their mentoring skills, gaining new insights on the heritage sector and planning for succession of the sector through training tomorrow's heritage leaders. This year, we had a full cohort with 8 mentees and 4 mentors. Our mentors are Sarah McKenzie, Executive Director at Ottawa Museum Network, Megan Lafreniere, Senior Loans and Exhibitions Officer at Library and Archives Canada, mentor and internship host Ruth Mills, President at Watson's Mill, and mentor and internship host Nick McCarthy, Director of Marketing, Communications, and Community Outreach here at Beechwood Cemetery. I extend my sincere gratitude to all our mentors for participating with such fervor in the program via guidance, counseling, and encouragement to the mentees. This year, in addition to professional development workshops, our mentees participated in the National Trust Conference here in Ottawa from 26th to 28th October at the Chateau Laurier. This was made possible by our grant funds from Ottawa Community Foundation, and our mentees had the opportunity to network with many heritage professionals from all across the country, as well as see many technical presentations and panel discussions. A special mention to Nick McCarthy and Beechwood Cemetery for hosting Ottawa the Great, a historic love letter to our city, in February, where both his mentees, Christine Matamoros and David Martin, presented the research they did during the program to the community. And for the people who have joined us online, Beechwood has also graciously offered us this venue where we are presenting from today. In addition to these, all the mentees have had the opportunity to connect one-on-one with their mentors for the past 5 months. And we hope that all the participants carry these insights that they have gained and the connections that they've made throughout this program into the future as well. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm very, very excited to hear all the mentees talk about their experiences with the program. So without further ado, I invite our project coordinator for CHMP, Jemima Ketu, a bright and motivated immersion professional herself, to introduce our mentees.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Jemima Ketu, the project coordinator for the Capital Heritage Mentorship Program. I am delighted to welcome you to the CHMP Forum. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from a diverse group of individuals, each bringing their unique perspective to the stage. Allow me to introduce the first mentee speaking, Christine Matamoros. Christine is a mother of four. She worked as a researcher and a historical interpreter with the Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi. She did her bachelor's degree at the Glendon campus of York University in 2001 and is a certified genealogist with the Fédération Québécoise des Sociétés de Généalogie. Christine regularly writes for the magazine Les Chemins and the Société Généalogique de l'Outaouais. Everybody, please welcome Christine.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. I'll just wait for my presentation to show up. So in a brief 5 minutes, I'll try to give you an overview of the last 4 months. And so I jumped right in. J'ai sauté les 2 pieds et puis j'ai pas arrêté. J'ai fait ça pas mal 24 heures par jour. J'ai rêvé, j'ai travaillé fort. Alors, what my internship consisted of was about researching different pioneers that are buried here at the cemetery, but that also made an impact on the creation of the national capital. So it all started with searching a database of 300, 700 names, but I can't remember how many there was in the database. And I started off by choosing all those that were born before 1810. And that's how, and I randomly pick names that seemed interesting. And from there, I had to organize all my findings. I didn't know where this was going to lead me. So I had to organize everything. So trying to figure where they were born, what was interesting that happened in their lives. So I used Trello, which was, if it's not known to, it's over here. And so I used this to make chronological lines of what happened during their lifespan. And so I started reaching out. I spoke with a museum in Osgood because I had one of the pioneer from Osgood. I got some feedback from Nick. And so started to figure out where this was all going. So I started off by writing my first biography back in November. And here's so quickly, I did biographies about 5 different individuals of very different backgrounds. So I had some widows, some loyalists, I had some French Canadian involved with the rebellion. I had a white Native American who's a teacher, and we also had a lawyer from England. So quickly went through them. The rest of the information will be found in the Beechwood Cemetery publication. So basically, my challenges has been learning to do this, to do my presentation in a short term, because at the end of all of this, we had to present. So learning to play with timings. But along the way, I made some very interesting networking. So from the National Trust Conference, I made some good friends, and I presented at the presentation at the Ottawa the Great, an historical love letter. More people showed up, and we had during the venue some interesting historical local music players. So there was a mix of everything. I had the chance also to do some training with Sarah. And we had the Heritage Day where we just ran around and met a lot of people. So I really enjoyed this networking. So to finish off my presentation, because that's it for today, here's what's upcoming. So after I finish my placement, I'll be able to write about my experience and let everybody else know that this is available. So in the magazine Le Chaînon, which is the magazine franco-ontarien Le Patrimoine. And then I also received several invitations. So next month I'll be giving a workshop for seniors in Orleans with the MIFO. I have an upcoming presentation on the Pioneers of Ottawa in the fall with the Historical Society of Ottawa. And we also put in a request of doing a presentation on the future about cemeteries. And that's been sent out to the National Trust Conference. And so during my last National Trust Conference, we had some mingling with some board members. So they requested a presentation for us. And my personal project would be to develop a rural tourism attraction. So pretty much doing what I've done, but for rural area, and hopefully get on board with the TechShip. And the last point is while learning all this self-care and complex PTSD, ADHD symptoms, I mean, everything just showed up as I was doing my internship, but it's just another bump in the road. So thank you. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Et voilà. Alors, merci Nick beaucoup pour ton soutien.
Wow. Thank you, merci beaucoup, Christine. Our next presenter is Liana Horn, who is currently an undergrad student at Carleton University pursuing a major in the history and theory of architecture with minor in heritage and conservation. She's looking to expand her interests in the heritage sector with future career paths and is specifically interested in cultural heritage involving the gentrification of cultural communities. Everybody, please welcome Liana.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Leanna, and as Jem mentioned, I'm currently in the midst of exploring my interests in heritage and conservation. So I recently took a minor in this area, and this mentorship with CHC has really helped me kind of dive deeper into that area in a way that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm going to talk a bit about how I came across heritage and a bit how I became more interested in it, including a little bit of personal connections I found while exploring this topic. So, and also how I made connections about my family involving different aspects of heritage. So I have become very interested, like Jem said, in the gentrification of cultural sectors and communities. So especially the gentrification of Chinatown, which is rapidly taking over these neighborhoods, all these places with lots of cultural value to these communities. And so it was through meetings with my mentor Megan that she really helped me network and meet different kinds of people in the field. Because I don't have much experience in that area yet, so it was really great to hear from all these heritage professionals and hear what they have to say about how they got to where they are essentially, and how everyone has a different path to get to where they are, essentially different career paths, and all the little bumps along the road and how they got there. So additionally, from attending the National Trust Conference and volunteering with Heritage Day, I got a chance to meet a wide variety of people and network with experienced professionals as well. So after the National Trust Conference specifically, there was a panel on one of the days I was particularly interested in. So it was about the social, cultural reset, cultural landscape, spatial equity, and telling a fuller story. So the speakers at the panel talked about community districts like Little Jamaica and Chinatown, and these sectors are constantly at risk due to ongoing gentrification surrounding or happening inside the area. So small businesses are being bought out or taken over for large developers like condos and high rises. And so one of the speakers at this panel specifically was Karen Cho, and she was the director of one of the documentaries called Big Fight in Little Chinatown. So I'm pretty sure some of you are familiar with that already, but essentially it talks about Chinatowns across North America. So including like Montreal, New York, and Vancouver, and how they are affected by city redevelopments and how they are affected by the pandemic as well. So my family essentially grew up in Montreal, and one of the places that they mentioned or as part of the documentary was similar to the building that my family grew up in that neighborhood, and that actually covered kind of briefly in the documentary as well. So it's on the same street where they filmed, so I did a bit more research in that regard, and I found out that one of the buildings was owned by my great-grandparents. And so I even found family photos, like photo albums, like my great-grandparents, grandparents, even like parents in those buildings as a kid, which was quite interesting. I did look for photos. Unfortunately, I could not put it together in time for a presentation, but they are there. They do exist. So the house is currently located at 116 Nigel Terrace Street, and it has many owners and tenants since, obviously, it sits back in like the 1950s. So including different functions as like a Chinese medicine shop, restaurants, and other small businesses. So I learned that it was bought for demolition more recently, actually, and so some of my relatives worked with the tenants to kind of try and preserve it and designate the building so that it would not be demolished for new reconstruction. So overall, it holds lots of cultural value to the Chinese community and just the general community in Montreal, as it plays such a big part in Chinatown. And so once it would be demolished, the community would lose a big part of its history, as well as the designation would also prevent it from being demolished entirely. But this comes after the fact. So essentially it was bought by developers and they already evicted all of the small businesses, actually. So it's kind of after the fact, but it was eventually designated, so it is still standing. And so there is currently one tenant that I know of that lives in the building at the moment. And so his name is Jean-Philippe Riopel, and he actually has a personal connection to Chinatown and heritage. So he has a background in museology and is actually a tour guide in Montreal. So I went to go visit a few months ago, and so he kind of gave me and my family like a bit of a tour of the building and kind of about the history and how it kind of went from like their family and all the things in between. And so he was actually awarded l'Assemblée nationale du Québec in 2022 to commemorate his efforts in this area. And so the latest update I heard from this development was that it was designated, so the developers were going to sell it again, but for a much higher price. And I have not heard what happened since, if it was bought back by someone or whatnot, but I know that there is a team of people trying to preserve it essentially. And so essentially all these personal connections come about how I learned about heritage and kind of what I found out through this mentorship, and kind of making these deeper connections was possible because of CHC. And so through the CHC program, I learned a lot about the heritage sector and future careers in heritage, but also make all of these cultural and heritage links that I wasn't previously not aware of. So I learned a lot.
Wow. So our next speaker is Nick. Nick is the programming intern at the
Kelowna.
Kelowna Museum Society in Kelowna, British Columbia. He has a BA in history from Carleton and a master's in public history from the University of Victoria, for which he designed a WordPress website showcasing representative collection of archive police complaints, as well as a brief overview of the history of policing as it pertains to Canada. Through this mentorship, his master's and his internship, he has gained a strong passion for programming and visitor experience in museums. Everybody, please welcome Nick McCall.
Hello. Daniel.
Yeah.
Kelowna Museums. It's where I work. And Kelowna used to have a Chinatown, and it doesn't anymore. And we have a tour about that. And I didn't know any of the history until that National Trust Conference and that presentation. It was so interesting. Completely irrelevant to what I'm talking about. But that was very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What I'm going to be talking about is how something that I learned from a mentorship and that I was applied to my work, because I'm the programming intern. I work with the programming team to put on programs and events. And most of our events are aimed at school kids who don't have money. Our museum also doesn't have money. Shocking. We need money, and the kids can't give it. So we need to find someone who can. A lot of what I'm trying to work towards in my role is help push the team and help support the team in making more adult-oriented programs. So when we were looking at our calendar of what are we going to do in the next year, and Valentine's Day didn't have any events, we did have a lot going on in February, but we didn't have anything for Valentine's Day, and it had been floated around that we would put on an event. Because one of our buildings, we have 3 museums: Heritage, Military, and Wine and Orchards. And the Wine and Orchards Museum is in this historic packing house. It's one of the oldest buildings in Kelowna, at 100 years old. I love shocking the children that my house that I grew up in is older than the very rickety log cabin we have. The inside of the building is this beautiful empty space. It's really stunning. The gallery is that part on the right. It's the part on the right, and the empty space is used for rentals. But it does sit empty quite a lot of the time, so we're trying to think of ways to leverage that space to get people in. Because a lot of the time people come to rent and then they say, oh, there's a museum. Or they don't even know. Often we have birthday parties. They say, I didn't know we had a museum in Kelowna. So we need to get people in. And running our events and getting large groups of people in who aren't the same people who come to all our events. We have adult stuff, but it's the same usual suspects. So what do? Valentine's Day trivia night.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? I am used to running trivia nights at Carleton in my undergrad with the undergrad society. I did one that was it was our most successful event in my grad student society. I like running trivia. I like making questions. But the big twist here is Kelowna is in the Okanagan, which is a big wine region. So it's a wine and trivia night. You pay $25. You get your glass of wine for free, some snacks, kind of like this, and trivia in the museum. And now we can invite people, get people into the museum, raise awareness, have a fun event, get adults. And no one wanted to take it on because everybody's busy with Black History Month, with Family Day, with this and that and this and that. And I thought, I don't know how to plan an event. I don't know how to make a budget. But I do remember that my mentor said that you should do things that you don't know how to do because that's how you learn. And so I said, can I do it? And everybody looked at me like, you've been here for 2 months and you have a month and a half to do this. And I said, okay, I'll figure it out. So I made a cost assessment, which you can't see because I made this on my phone, screenshotting a PowerPoint and sticking it together. But this is my cost assessment where I figured out the cost of everything, including the tablecloths, which I did not think would be the most expensive expense, but they were, because it's cheaper to buy them than rent them, but we don't have space to store them.
Yeah.
But what I also didn't realize is that we're a wine producing region, and a $14 bottle of wine is not medium priced. A $20 bottle of wine is incredibly cheap. So I had to completely change my cost assessment. But we got there in the end, and I also didn't factor in the cost of marketing. Because I don't know it. And I didn't think it was... I'm the intern. They don't teach me. No, they do teach me. They're very good. But, like, I'm not the marketing intern. And so when they said, we need to do a rush marketing job, I did it. With Canva, with support of my coworker. She helped me organize everything and make it look nice, but I was able to say, hey, instead of paying $500, could we just... I made the poster. But we were also hiring an ED and several other new roles, and the management were way too busy with important things to have time to approve this on time, so it didn't happen. Which is actually kind of a relief, because it meant I got to plan everything, and they loved it, and they're going to do it next year, and I didn't have to run it. But it was a really, really cool learning experience. I learned about making a floor plan, buying tablecloths, getting catering, ordering wine, planning an event, how much time do you need to market it? More than we had. And for the future, we're going to do outreach. We take trivia nights to pubs, spread the word, and then next year we'll have customers. And thank you for telling me to do something scary.
You're
Thank you, Nick. We're very proud of you for coming up with something. never- I mean,
The fun thing is, another museum stole our idea.
Oh.
They did. They're just doing another. Sorry.
I mean, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that exactly.
Oh.
Steal my idea.
Trying to figure out if you're from Ottawa.
Our next speaker is Shiraz, who has a diverse academic background in architecture, heritage, coupled with extensive professional experiences in Tunisia. She has a profound dedication to learning and contributing to society. Her interest in heritage, history, and the arts drive her to constantly seek new perspectives. She is driven by relentless curiosity and commitment to tackling new challenges. Everybody, please welcome Shiraz.
Hello everyone, thank you all for being here today. Special thanks to Capital Heritage Connection for this enriching opportunity, and gratitude to Ruth Mills for welcoming me to Watson's Mill and Dickinson House for my internship, the focus of today's presentation. This is Watson's Mill and Dickinson House team, and big thanks to Carly for joining me during the internship. During this shortened presentation, I will provide an overview of the work I did during the internship, and I will talk about Dickinson Square, materials process, analysis, history, and Dickinson House management. So Dickinson Square is located in Manotex Village. Is a heritage site and is open as a museum to the public. So it comprises 3 entities: Watson's Mills as a heritage grist mill, Dickinson House as was the former residence of Manotex founder, and the Carrier shed is hosting Watson's Mill Manotech Incorporation. So during my internship, I undertook a segment of an extensive archive. I was assigning the data. So this consists in clearly documenting description and condition for each item. I captured photographs, labeled accurately these items using appropriate numbers for each item. I entered data in the museum's collection database Past Perfect, and finally I put all these items in the storage, proper storage. So there is some numbers here about the work, the overcome of working that I did with these items. It leads to finishing documenting 80 objects or items. This includes 78 founding collection items with assigned reference numbers, and 12 items for which I assigned a tracking number.
Among these items, 82.5% newspaper clippings, 15% newspapers, and 2.5% catalogs. During the documentation, I noticed that there is a heritage fact constantly repeated in the newspaper articles. I can, for example, the mill, Watson's mill played a crucial role in the Malotech's economic development. Or after her tragical death, her career still haunts Floor's mill. Another example of my work in the Watson's mill, it's assisting in the management of the Dickinson House daily. This includes artifacts protection procedure like covering custom or managing the monitor and the fire, and for the ambient condition. And after a square intrusion in the Dickinson house,
Oh,
it
it
is
is bad.
and it is the vase where he put here.
Oh, the nuts.
Yeah, we found a lot. Yeah, nuts. So we took some measures like covering all artifacts and placing some traps at Dickinson House entrances to secure the museum. This is my photo with Ruth and Carly, and this is Anne. She knows very well how to enhance Photoshop. Thank you for your. And sorry for
I think I'm gonna leave that up there until we're finished. Thank you so much, Shiraz. Merci beaucoup. Our next presenter is coming all the way from Toronto. Scott graduated recently from the University of Toronto after completing his dissertation on Canadian literature and cultural memory. He has published his research in the University of Toronto quarterly and contributed to Heritage Toronto as an emerging historian. As a mentee, he has continued to pursue the possibility of heritage and hopes to help further the role of heritage in flourishing communities. Everybody, please welcome Scott.
Thank you to Joanna and Megan. Yes, I do intend to continue to pursue the possibility of heritage. I started this program with some questions. When I started, I was coming out of academia and I had been studying literature, so I was viewing literature in a sense as a form of documentary heritage or intangible heritage. And intangible heritage doesn't have a great presence so far in the heritage industry in Canada. It's sort of growing in spurts a little bit. But one of the things that I took away from and developed in my dissertation was the notion of the dynamism of heritage. And so entering this program, it seemed to have such a kismet with what was happening at the National Trust Conference, which thematized the dynamism of heritage by thinking about transforming heritage. This event is thematized as the future of heritage. So I had been thinking a lot about whether or not heritage is to be understood as something that is static and remains in place and needs to be preserved and protected, or if it's something that shifts and changes as communities shift and change as well. And I think that I entered this program thinking about it in a very open-ended sense, and one of the things that I really appreciate about this mentorship program and about my work with Sarah, who I'm really grateful to have worked with, and Nick as well, if I got to be in touch with a lot, is that the questions that I entered the program with, I didn't need them to be answered, but the wonderful thing about the mentorship program is that it offered a way to steer the question, deepen them, and look at how they can be answered in different ways than I had been understanding them as I had worked so far. So instead of continuing to think about heritage and these funny little contradictions that can arise within it, I began to understand the practicality of the heritage industry and how there are additional contradictions that arise in there, but that gives some concreteness to what I have been thinking about. For example, one thing that many heritage locations are focused on, such as museums or houses, are either focusing on the potential for tourist visitors, while other heritage organizations are focused where they prioritize, their more immediate community. And both of those are great. There's heritage doesn't need to be one or the other. In fact, they can be aligned to one another as well. So that, I mean, is one brief example of how I've been able to engage the kinds of quandaries that I was exploring or hoped to explore. And it gave me a real sense of optimism about how heritage can be further involved, not only in heritage houses or parks or monuments, but also the ways that heritage can inform city planning um, and urban development and architectural restoration and that sort of thing. So to me, the kinds of the future of heritage or the possibility of heritage is not even located in necessarily in just the specific heritage organizations that were a part of that. It can have a more proliferating influence and power on the way that we develop our communities and our spaces. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So that is the end of the presentation portion of the evening. But before we get to more refreshments and chatting and networking, I just want to say a few quick thank yous. So first and foremost, of course, we'd like to thank the Ottawa Community Foundation for supporting the Capital Heritage Mentorship Program for the past 3 years through their multi-year community grants program. Literally could not do it without them. These important funds and to support the support of the OCF team checking in with us and during that pandemic time pivoting until the cows came home. So thank you so much to OCF. Secondly, we'd like to thank all of our mentors this year and over the last couple of years. We literally couldn't do it without you either. The mentee-mentor relationship is obviously the core of the program. And as we've heard from all the mentees tonight, just so much experience and just having someone to chat about your different career paths, as there are many, is so important to the program. So we appreciate all the time that you have given to us. Thirdly, we'd like to thank Simba. So Simba was our internship software provider. So they supported the program with their technological prowess in the form of a virtual resource hub so that our mentees could access resources and connect with each other as we had to pivot throughout the COVID pandemic. So thank you so much to Simba. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of the CHC staff and board members, past and present, who have contributed to this program over the years. So every person who has worked on this program, it has evolved every iteration, every year, and it just keeps getting better. So we are currently looking to secure more funding for the next few years of the program. And our goal is to eventually have the Capital Heritage Mentorship Program be sustained through individual supporters who share our values. That the importance of supporting, developing, and sustaining the heritage sector here in Ottawa and those emerging heritage professionals that we have heard from tonight. So we have donation forms on our website as well as here on the tables if you'd like to help us make programs like this available to more emerging heritage professionals. So thank you everyone for your continued support and please enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.